There is a word printed on almost every mid-range road bike sold today. It appears on the spec sheet right next to the price, and most buyers have quietly decided it means better. That word is electronic. And somewhere in the last few years, without a vote and without much argument, electronic shifting stopped being a luxury and became the thing you are expected to want. Here is the part nobody puts on the sticker. The group set that made this jump used to be the sensible choice. It was the one you recommended to a friend who wanted a real road bike without remortgaging the house. Then it went electronic, and the price roughly doubled. Same tier, same name, nearly twice the money. So the question this film is going to answer is not whether electronic shifting is impressive. It is. The question is simpler and far more useful to you. If you are not a professional, if you are the person actually paying, does that battery and that little motor buy you better cycling? Or does it mostly buy you better marketing? Let us start with what actually changed, because the difference is smaller and stranger than the price suggests. A mechanical shifter does something beautifully simple. You push a lever, a steel cable gets pulled through a housing, and the derailleur moves a fixed, indexed amount. That is it. There are no batteries because there is nothing to power. The energy comes from your thumb. Electronic shifting takes that cable and throws it away. In its place is either a thin wire in Shimano's Di2 system or nothing at all but a radio signal in SRAM's wireless AXS system. You press a button, a message travels to a small motor inside the derailleur, and the mover moves it to a position that was programmed in advance. Your thumb is no longer doing the work. A battery is.
And this is where the honest case for electronic begins, because there is a real one. A cable stretches. Over weeks and months it settles. The housing fills with grit, friction creeps in, and your shifting slowly drifts out of tune. You have felt it, even if you did not name it. That slightly hesitant change, that was crisp when the bike was new. Electronic shifting does not do that. The motor moves the same distance today, next month, and next winter. It does not care about grit or stretch, because there is no cable to stretch. The clearest place you feel this is the front. Shifting the chain onto the big ring while you are pushing hard on the pedals is the one thing mechanical shifting has always fought. You either ease off or you hear that reluctant grind. An electronic front derailleur has a motor that simply powers the chain across under load, no matter how hard you are pedaling. It is fast, it is quiet, and it is genuinely, measurably better. If you take one engineering fact from this film, take that one. There is a second real advantage, and it has nothing to do with speed. It is your hands. A button needs no strength and no dexterity. On a freezing morning, in thick gloves, when a mechanical lever feels like a stubborn door, a Di2 button clicks exactly the same as it does in July. For riders with cold hands, for long days, and for anyone whose grip is not what it used to be, that consistency is a quiet, daily kind of good. So far, this sounds like a straightforward win. Faster front shifts, no drift, effortless in the cold. If that were the whole story, this would be a very short documentary, and electronic shifting would simply be correct. But every advantage in cycling has a bill attached, and we haven't opened the bill yet. Start with the most obvious one.
The battery. Electronic shifting only works if it has power, which means somewhere in your week there is now a small chore that did not exist before. You have to charge your bike. Miss it, and at some point you will be out on the road when the shifting quietly stops. Now, the systems are clever about this. They warn you well in advance, and as the battery fades, they cut the front shifting first and save the rear, so you can usually still limp home in a sensible gear. Running the battery completely flat is, as one writer put it, the sort of mistake you make exactly once. But it is a mistake that simply cannot happen on a cable. Then there is a subtler cost, and this one is pure engineering. On the current Shimano systems, the brain of the whole group set, the little controller that makes every decision, lives inside the rear derailleur. The rear derailleur, the single component hanging lowest and furthest back on your bike, the one that meets the ground first in a crash, the one that catches a stick, the one that gets clipped when the bike falls over in a car park. That part, on the affordable electronic group set, costs around £275, or roughly $450, on its own. And here is the uncomfortable bit. Without it, nothing shifts. Not the front, not the rear, nothing. You have concentrated the intelligence and a large share of the cost of your drivetrain into the component most likely to get destroyed. This is not a flaw unique to one brand. It is a design choice you inherit the moment you go electronic, and it deserves to be on the sticker too. There is a third cost that is easy to miss when you are standing in the shop: repairability.
If a cable frays or slips, a competent rider,
or a friendly stranger with a multi-tool can often bodge it enough to get you home. An electronic fault is different. A firmware glitch, a wiring problem, a dead controller. These usually do not get solved at the roadside. They get solved back at a shop with a laptop. For most riders on most rides, that never matters. For someone 100 kilometers from anywhere, or touring through places without a Die-2 literate mechanic, it matters a great deal. But the single most important thing electronic shifting does not do is the one the marketing quietly lets you assume. It does not make your drivetrain last longer. Let me be very clear, because this is where a lot of money gets misunderstood. Electronic shifting removes the tuning. It does not remove the wear. Your chain still stretches. Your cassette still wears. Your chain rings, your jockey wheels, your bearings, all of it wears at exactly the same rate as it would on a mechanical bike. You are still buying chains. You are still buying cassettes. The motor changes how the derailleur moves, not how the metal grinds down. So when someone tells you electronic shifting is lower maintenance, they are telling you a specific and narrow truth. You will no longer reach for a barrel adjuster. You will no longer replace a shift cable. That is real, and for some riders, it is genuinely liberating. But the expensive recurring costs of owning a drivetrain, the consumables, are completely untouched. The bike still needs the same care. It just needs a slightly different kind. Now, let us do the thing the marketing never does.
When the affordable electronic group set launched, the full set of parts cost somewhere around £1,700, or a little under $1,900. The mechanical generation it replaced had launched at around $1,000. That is not a small bump. That is very nearly double at the exact tier that existed to be the reasonable option. Where did that money go? Some of it is honest. Motors, controllers, radios, batteries, and chargers genuinely cost more to make than a cable and a lever. That is real added hardware, and you are really paying for it. But some of it is strategy. Electronic shifting became the feature that lets a company charge more and defend the gap between its tiers. As the fancy technology trickled down from the top group sets into the affordable one, the price of the affordable one rose to protect the space above it. In fact, the weight gap to the tier above actually grew, while the price gap stayed wide. You were not just paying for progress, you were paying to keep the hierarchy tidy. And I want to be fair here, because context matters. In the real world, almost nobody pays the list price. Both electronic and mechanical group sets get discounted constantly and unevenly, and if you shop patiently, the gap can shrink a lot. Sometimes the difference between the affordable electronic set and the tier above it falls to a few £100s. So the honest financial picture is not a fixed number, it is a range, and it rewards the patient buyer far more than the impulsive one. So who is actually right to spend this money? This is where a single verdict would be a lie, because the honest answer depends entirely on who is holding the handlebars. Let us take the riders one by one. If you are a competitive amateur racer, this is the easiest yes in the film. Fast, certain front shifts under full power in the middle of an effort when easing off costs you the wheel in front are worth real money to you. The consistency, the speed, the not thinking about it. For you, electronic earns its price on the road, not on the spec sheet. If you ride in the cold and the wet, or with big gloves, or if your hands simply are not as strong or as nimble as they once were, this is also close to a yes. The button that works identically at -5 and +25 is not a gimmick to you. It is the difference between shifting cleanly and fumbling. That is a daily, tangible good, and it is easy to undervalue until it is January. But if you are a budget-first buyer, buying your first real performance bike, I want to gently take your hand off the electronic option for a moment. That extra money almost certainly does more for you somewhere else. Better tires will change how your bike feels far more than a motor in the derailleur. A proper bike fit will change how it feels even more. Good wheels, or simply a better frame for the same total spend, will do more for your cycling than electronic shifting ever will. Mechanical shifting, set up well, is not a downgrade. It is excellent. A properly tuned mechanical drivetrain shifts better than a badly set up electronic one, every single time. If you are a casual or low mileage rider, the main advantage of electronic barely reaches you. Cable drift is a problem of use. If you are not putting in the hours, your cables are not stretching much, and the thing you are paying to avoid is not really happening to you. And if you are the rider who values independence, the tourer, the long-distance soloist, the person who wants to fix their own bike by the side of a road with no phone signal, then the calculus tips the other way entirely. For you, the cable is not old technology. It is freedom from charging, freedom from firmware, and the ability to get yourself home. That is not nostalgia. That is engineering that matches how you actually ride. So let us come back to that word on the spec sheet, electronic. It is not a lie, and it is not a scam. It is a genuine piece of engineering that does two things very well: the fast front shift and the effortless button, and it does them consistently for years. But it is not a universal upgrade, and it is certainly not a reason to assume the mechanical bike beside it is the lesser machine. What electronic shifting really is a trade. You are trading a cable for a battery. You are trading roadside simplicity for programmed precision. You are trading a barrel adjuster for a charging cable and a piece of firmware. And you are trading, at that famous affordable tier, very nearly double the money for a set of advantages that some riders will feel every single ride, and others will almost never notice. The next time you stand in front of two bikes, and one says electronic and one says mechanical, do not ask which is better. That question has no honest answer. Ask the only question that does. Which of these advantages will I actually use, and which am I just paying to own? Answer that, and you will never overpay for a battery again, and you will finally see the spec sheet for what it is, not a ranking, a menu.